An aircraft, or meteor, crashes in a small town in Wisconsin. Deep Throat gives Mulder 24 hours to investigate before the military cleans it up. Mulder defies a multitude of protocols in this one.
This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
It tripped the fence at 2317 off the coast of Connecticut, sir.
Initial trajectory was north by northwest, then it started going crazy.
What about other aircraft in the area or missile testing?
Sir, no known aircraft can maneuver like this.
Well, whatever it was, dropped off the screen at 2418, sir. Hit ground just west of Lake Michigan outside Townsend, Wisconsin.
The tracking and impact prediction team calculated impact at over 800 miles per hour.
I've instructed Chief Courts to start a report right away. Use these radar tapes to support...
Negative. What she tracked was a meteor. Its aberrant movement was obviously due to instrument malfunction.
But, sir...
Your report will reflect these facts. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to This Is Not Happening, an X-Files podcast. Tonight, we are reviewing Fallen Angel, written by Howard Gordon and Alex Ganza, directed by Larry Shaw. And this is a mythology episode, and I liked it. I'll start right off by saying I liked it.
Oh yeah, it is a very fun episode. It brings the mythology back. You know, we've had a little bit of a hiatus. Even if the stuff that happens in it doesn't really affect the larger arc of the show, it's still a good episode. We get Mulder's second major intersection with the military in this episode, and it's pretty intense and fun.
Yeah, it does remind us of that lingering threat, because we haven't had that for a little while. We've had a few monsters of the week. I'd like to think that the reason that it's not quite as well thought out for mythology is they're still figuring out what the mythology episodes will actually be. I mean, they probably don't even think of them as that right now, but there are a lot of puzzle pieces that are put into play for this episode that will only gain... they'll only become clear later, I think, once the plot sort of is unveiled for us. But in this episode, they're just sort of starting to set up those chess pieces and introduce us to some of the concepts that'll come up later. So, with that in mind, shall we dive right into this episode? So speaking of diving, something dives out of the sky into a forest. I have nothing without my quality segues. It is a meteor crashing into a forest, and just happening by is I called him a park ranger, but it turns out he's, I guess, a sheriff's deputy in Wisconsin. This is Deputy Wright, and he tries to call it in, but there is some weird radio interference. So he gets out to investigate, which is, of course, what you should do when you're in law enforcement.
Well, you know, if you see a fire behind the tree line, to go investigate in the X-Files.
Well, and that's not just any fire, too. That's a quality bloom fire. He knew it wasn't going to work out well for him because he's by himself, right?
I do want to point out this is Alvin Sanders, who plays the bus driver in F. Emasculata.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We got a few this week.
As we know, there is a limited pool of actors to draw on in British Columbia. So he goes to investigate, and meanwhile, in a U.S. space surveillance center, identified by its giant radar dishes, they've picked up an unidentified bogey. And we have Marshall Bell as Colonel Calvin Henderson, who intersects the hapless radar operators as they are watching this crazy blip go on their screen. And he's going to lay down the law about the report they're going to write. This is a meteor which has messed with their instruments, and your report will reflect as much.
As soon as they push back a little bit, sir, this is clearly an aircraft.
Yeah.
No, it's a meteor and scary 90s talk.
Yeah.
He lays a boatload out here when he initiates Operation Falcon.
It's so good. We have to retrieve a fallen angel. And there's the setup for that scene too is so good. Like the lighting is very moody. Full credit to whoever put this one together. It is a spooky look. It fits the profile. And it certainly cost probably a lot less to make this set than the Space Center in space. But it's super effective, though, right? It
which
totally works.
is strange because you don't see it much.
You don't need to.
And in
right?
space, you're living in the...
Yeah. And
they have like 3 cardboard boxes set up with a TV set.
yeah. So back in the forest, Deputy Wright is preyed on by a super fast monster with a fisheye lens for an eye. And we have some very bad video effects simulating an alien attack.
This is the...
It's not good.
I'm racking my brain. And ever since I watched this episode for this podcast, I've been trying to think, and I really don't think there's another moment in the show where we get the alien eye view.
Mm-hmm.
Especially not when it's like rushing to attack.
Well, they play with that in other episodes, though.
They play with the flash.
Well, and they play with the monster POV.
Oh, yeah.
But and they've made this an alien monster by giving it a fisheye, you know, for an eye.
It was like a combination. I think the reason I separate it is because they give it that really annoying and awful sound effect whenever it happens.
Yeah.
That tinny, high-pitched. Yeah. Oh, my God. I'm so glad they ditched that.
Well, I mean, did they ditch it or did they just, is this like Fire? How we'll never see a certain thing again, right? Like this particular alien species will never be talked of, but other alien species, shape changer, oil aliens, we'll talk about them lots. So, but everything about the attack, and I get that you're in the 90s and there's a smaller toolbox to deal with. But I think you could brainstorm something that would work to simulate a better alien attack. Because they can't hit it right here in this one. But anyway, he dies. It's not good for him.
Well,
cut to credits.
Yeah, I agree with you. But in the rest of the show, they approach it better, for sure. Mm-hmm. But they don't, I don't know why they didn't think of what they start doing here. Because you're having the camera in Deputy Wright's face and him just kind of clawing at it for an ungodly amount of time. Yeah. It just looks terrible.
Yeah.
It's like you could have just cut away or something and just shown the flash like you end up doing, the rest of the show. But
you could detonate a little explosive there off, in the background or something that would fit with the sudden acceleration of heat on this guy. I mean, that's kind of what they're describing, but yeah, it's weird. And I guess they're trying to make it spooky. So mission accomplished. Anyway.
So credits.
Moving on, we are treated to a little montage-y type business. We have a news report of a toxic spill outside of Townsend, Wisconsin. And there's a quarantine in effect. Some news footage of military vehicles and roadblocks, and people are being evacuated. And in the midst of all this, Mulder is gearing up. He's putting stuff into bags. He's, putting a bandana on his head. He's putting a knife in its scabbard. He's putting camouflage paint on his...
Rambo.
Oh, wait, I'm thinking of a different movie. But he's definitely getting ready to go. And nicely, they don't waste any time in this episode. We have his conversation with Deep Throat.
I will say this is very nicely done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They didn't need to go through the whole rigmarole of him contacting Deep Throat or Deep Throat contacting him. It's just already happened. He's getting ready and he's leaving. That's kind of cool. I like the way they did it in this episode.
Yeah, and it's deftly cut together. I will give credit to the director on this one. It is a guy named Larry Shaw for this episode, and he only directs this one and Fire. So
Bit of
I guess you know everything you need to know about that by virtue of the fact that he did that one, which is weird because I like this one, but Fire didn't work for me.
I won't say technically Fire is bad. I would say everyone did their jobs. It's just not the best story.
Yeah, fair.
But we'll get to that in a week or two, ladies and gentlemen.
We're not talking about Fire tonight. So we are seeing him being, the scene is intercut with his discussion with Deep Throat, where he essentially sets him up on his course to go and see if Mulder can get to the downed alien ship before Colonel Henderson. And we then have him cutting to the forest. We get lots of good military B-roll, trucks moving around, soldiers running around, and they've got their guns out. And I'm thinking, is this standard procedure in a quarantine to have armed soldiers running around?
I mean, who knows?
I guess the cover story is what makes it work when Scully comes in later and tells him what the real deal is. It explains that away.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that being said, the soldiers technically don't know what they're getting into, right? Because they said, I thought it was just an exercise.
Oh, but those are the special soldiers. We haven't come to them yet. I'm talking about the regular green soldiers.
The everyday soldiers. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're putting up their roadblocks, and there's a lot of hoo-hoo, ha-ha, over there, over here, that kind of business.
Hut, hut, hut.
And finally, our special forces arrive, and I would like us to go through the checklist of how we know they are the special forces.
Because
Because
the show tells us to, and they have cool dialogue.
Well, they're dressed differently.
They're
Mike.
dressed differently.
They have their black flak jackets. Will no doubt protect you from aliens.
Alien flash bombs.
Yeah.
Your flak jackets will keep you safe.
Their heads are also protected by special ball caps.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, if you're special ops, you can't wear like a helmet.
Can't wear a helmet.
Can't. Too cool
vision.
for school there.
And they also have an assortment of non-standard weaponry, ranging from pistols to submachine guns, but not your standard Army M16, which every other soldiers carry. Yes, they are. They have arrived, and I don't know, it's a corporal or something. He's meeting up with Colonel Henderson, and he's been told that this is not a drill. And this guy looks a mixture of annoyed and excited at the prospect that he's got his live weapons.
I'm confused why I have a boner.
Yeah. And at the end of this, Mulder shimmies out from underneath the truck.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of Mulder, like commando stuff going on here. You know, you would see that in Predator, where he's already under the truck and is waiting for the military guys to leave. But no, we're seeing it here. Mulder is listening to all this.
Yeah, he's like, they clearly have their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah.
He did get stopped by the laser pointer fence.
I totally missed the laser pointer fence. Yes, that is an important aspect, which I got to say, it's a pretty rugged territory out there. I am surprised that they have found a way to get straight lines to contain the alien, because like there are hills in that country.
They probably weed whack a square around the perimeter so they can get those fences.
And I've forgotten that this is not BC. This is, in fact, according to the story, Wisconsin. And maybe it's flat there?
As the resident Wisconsin person on this podcast, I can say yes.
Excellent.
There's a lot of flatness.
Have you been to Townsend, Wisconsin?
I have been right here, and I saw the crater.
Oh, wow.
Where this happened.
You really prepared for this episode.
I did. I went, and I'm like, okay, we're taking a trip to the lakes to see this. Yeah. And I saw where they put the fence.
They left the laser pointer fence.
They left that there just for me. It's still up.
You never know when the aliens are going to come back. So, are we ready to move on?
We are very much ready to move on. I'm sorry.
So we're now in nighttime, and the army is patrolling the woods, and they're not finding anything, including Mulder, who is shimmying around in the dark. And he sees some light through the trees and goes to investigate, finding the UFO crash site. As crews in hazmat suits use fire extinguishers to cool down the wreckage, I would guess?
Yeah, I don't know what exactly they're doing here, but...
You can never be too careful when it comes to downed Libyan jets. Probably
the worst plot point of this episode. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's what you came up with. It's the Libyans! Marty!
Easy to blame it on the Libyans in the 90s. He's snapping some pictures, and a soldier comes up behind him and butt strokes him in the head, and he falls down. And his camera keeps on taking pictures, but yeah, we're up to a commercial.
I hate that. Can I just say that? I hate
bad. It's a bad camera if it's going to keep on doing that.
It's like every 80s and 90s thing. If anyone gets a camera knocked out of their hand, it starts just unloading, taking all the pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Cameras don't work that way, even now. So Mulder is brought before Colonel Henderson with his aching jaw.
You just made the worst mistake of your life.
Yeah, it's a good moment. I'm not sure what... Anyway, I have a lot to think about this particular scene, but Mulder is brought before Henderson, where the film is exposed and makes that whole business we just talked about moot. And Henderson threatens Mulder with a crime, that of violating a quarantine. And they get into it. You don't know what you're dealing with here. And Henderson's all coy and is like, well, maybe you better forget what you saw or what you think you saw. And he underlines and italicizes the think there.
Think.
And, tosses him in a cell where he meets Max Fennig. And I like Max. I think he's well portrayed.
Do you mind if I sit down? Oh, let me guess. You're with that new group. Psychop, right? Say no more. You're a cautious man. Trust no one. Very wise. After what happened at JFK, I understand completely. Oh, let me introduce myself. My name is Max Fennig. I'm with the National Investigative Committee of Aerial Phenomenon. NICAP. Pleased to make your acquaintance. I wish we could shake on it, Firm grip, look right in the eye. You learn a lot about a guy that way. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Did you see anything? Did you get close? Me, I saw nothing. I didn't see anything. Not a zip. 100 yards past the roadblock, they nailed me. Have no idea how they did it. I'm telling you, it's like the Roswell cover-up all over again.
What makes you so sure there's something out there?
Same thing that makes you so sure?
Instantly lovable.
Yeah, and he gets a couple episodes, Not just a one-hit wonder in here. He comes back. And he
takes him a while, but he comes back.
Well, the universe is a big place.
Well, I suppose.
So Max introduces himself, but Mulder plays it silent. And when I saw this, I immediately thought, oh, you are a jerk. Here's a guy who's obviously freaked out. You know who he is because he has identified himself in his, nightcap, ball cap, or whatever. You know exactly what this guy's story is. And it's your story. And you're now being Henderson to Mulder to him. So I didn't didn't understand that.
I don't know if I took it that way. I think it's a combination of Mulder being protective and maybe slightly thinking this guy's a plant.
Oh, I never even thought that he could be a plant. You're right.
He's just not going to talk to people about what he's doing there. I think that's kind of what I got from it. He's going to give static to the military, who's obviously lying about what they're doing. But him talking to a rando, I don't know. You bring up a good point, but I guess I just never took it that way.
Well, and it's funny. I didn't think of him being a plant. So that is a good counterpoint. But I might, if they had actually thought of that, I might have won a little bit of something there. Like, even Max is the one who proffers all this stuff. And he says, oh, yeah, you're very wise not to say anything. Trust no one and all that. So I kind of got that. But, maybe Max would be the one to say, for all I know, you could be a plant, and that would be a nice little counter.
And that is important. It's the first time we hear that, I believe. Trust no one.
Oh, interesting.
The calling card of the X-Files, pretty much.
Well, we'll certainly hear it at the end of the season.
All right. Cut.
Oh, did I
You ruined it for everyone.
But we have a nice arrival of Scully coming in through her backlit silhouette.
She's pissed.
She's definitely ticked off. What have you gone and done this time, Mulder? So she's there to bring him back because there's a bit of an investigation going on. And that the X-Files are under threat of being shut down. And I think it's interesting they bring this up here because, of course, that does happen later, but not for a couple episodes. So Scully's been tasked with bringing Mulder back to the FBI, and she reveals why, at least it's been revealed to her why everything is so serious here. It's because the toxic spill is not the real story. In fact, a Libyan jet has crashed, and there is a possibility of a nuke on board. And the army is going to go and find it. And of course, Mulder isn't buying any of it. And it is kind of preposterous.
It's so preposterous. And Scully is like, yep, this said classified, so it's got to be true.
But Scully is, to her credit, the rules follower, right? She's the one.
I'm just trying to think of she's not an idiot. Like the whole flight here, she had to be like, Libyan. Yeah, I totally, but wait, Libya, what? No, they said that's what it was. That's what it was.
All right. So in 94, would there have been direct flights from Olivia to Wisconsin? Wisconsin International Airport?
I have no idea where this would make sense. Because I am not a military expert. I do not know the capacity of fighter jets to make it, let's say, across the ocean to the United States.
To be fair, I thought it was a passenger jet. But then Mulder goes and calls him a fighter jock. So
so I thought that's what he was saying, but maybe not. I just don't know. The whole story just seems ridiculous. So
well, and
probably
I think
the weakest part.
It's probably meant to, because we already know from Deep Throat that this is in fact something else.
Yeah.
So, it is suspicious enough that it follows, but
that's true.
You're right, though. The point that Scully buys it is the problematic part here, and that she is so emphatic. But in the end, she doesn't really care. She's just like, it's not my job to investigate this. It's not your job to investigate this. It's my job to get you back to Washington to see if you can save your career. So we cut to our mysterious creature, who is now at the laser pointer fence. And what do you think of the little effect they've used to give him his little predator outfit?
It's fine. It's one brief little scene. It's endearing because it's so bad.
It's good 90s CGI.
But it's fine. I like the buzz it makes when it goes through the fence. It's just that much better.
Well, that's what lasers do, though. You don't want to touch a laser. It'll buzz you. Oh. To explain it away, maybe when a laser hits a invisible fisheye alien, it makes a buzz.
Bzz, cannot cut through your cloaking device.
Haha, we've got you. So he's no longer confined to the laser pointer fence, and it speeds away. I think we go to commercial at this point. Yep. So we are now back with Mulder and Scully as he's returned to his cheap hotel room, and he's saying he's going to stick around and investigate. We got to be back tomorrow. No need for us to rush away. To his point, it's fair. So he gets inside, and immediately they see that the whole place has been ransacked. Yeah. And they hear that someone is still in there.
And there we get Max's butt escaping through the window. Can't quite do it. He's shaking his little feetsies.
I looked at that scene and had to look at it again. I think he could have made it. I think that
he could have.
I think they should have patted out his butt to make it work. That's the only way it would have fallen for me. But yeah, they make it a little bit more comic, and they drag him back in.
Yeah, that's funny.
And he reveals that he knows exactly who Mulder and Scully are. And his people have been tracking him through the Freedom of Information Act. And he's super impressed with Mulder. And
I do like this.
I kind of like the geeking out there, that Mulder is kind of a celebrity in this world.
Yeah, like, not just that, but like that people are watching this. People are tuned into the X-Files on some level in the general public, Mm-hmm. Like, there are these people who are like interested enough and are so sure, about aliens that they're actually looking at these two agents who seem to be going out at all these crazy events. And I just like that kind of depth it gives the whole story.
And I gotta say, I like his the episode's use of the Freedom of Information Act as a way to track Scully and Mulder, and most importantly, that it's not about the cases that they tracked; it's about their travel expenses that they're following, and they piece together where they're going, what they're doing by virtue of their plane tickets and their car rentals and their hotels. Yeah, I think it's pretty smart, because if you can imagine them trying to use the Freedom of Information Act to access a case file and getting shut down pretty quick, because like those are ongoing investigations. But travel expenses, I think it's a smart and nice touch. So full credit to the writers on that one.
It's good.
So impressed, Mulder decides he's going to go over and look through Max's RV, where we discover a UFO enthusiast's imagination wall. And Scully discovers Max's medications.
Real quick, one other way Max has been tracking him is because he apparently Mulder posts articles under a pseudonym.
Well, I think he wrote them for a magazine, Omni magazine, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think that there's this aspect of Mulder that we aren't even, as viewers, kind of attuned to.
Well, interesting? It is. I find I've thought of it as a something that had been done a while back. Like
Most likely. Yeah.
I don't see it as something that he has a lot of time for now that he's got his assignment with the X-Files. But it could be he's just got so much free time on his hands. I mean, he has no social life that he has enough time to write op-ed pieces for magazines. Scully has discovered Max's medications, and then Max shows off what he discovered last night. The whole reason he brought them to his RV. He's got a very special audio surveillance device, and he's got a recording of Deputy Wright. And this is, in fact, a recap of the scene that we saw at the top of the episode. And then we have the panic calls half an hour later.
Yeah.
So there's enough there to intrigue Mulder and Scully that maybe they don't gotta go off to Washington just yet. Maybe there's more.
Yeah, it sounds like the second policeman is being chased or something terrible is happening, and it's definitely not just a crash site.
He's definitely freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
So we cut back to Henderson, who's reassuring his masters that his quarry will not escape. And Mulder and Scully visit Deputy Wright's family at the shelter. I guess that's the local arena or something.
Mill Road High School Emergency Evacuation Center.
Yeah, I could read the subtitles too if I want, but I just didn't in this case, okay? Jeez.
No, I was just helping.
Anyway, Mrs. Wright is not super helpful. She just wants to be left alone, and she's definitely been scared off. She ends out the scene saying that if she speaks to anyone, they're going to withhold his pension, and she's got a child to raise.
Oh.
They got to her.
And that's a taste of Deep Throat again. The wives aren't saying anything because if they do, they're going to get their funding cut off.
Well, okay. Now, that's an interesting point on Deep Throat, and I was going to get to that later, but because you brought him up 3 times, he will appear. I wonder what his motivation is in this at all. Like, why is he...
I meant the episode.
Yeah, well, exactly. But why does he launch Mulder in this direction? And I would assume that it's probably other people, not Jerry Hardin directly going in and telling the wife, if you talk about anything, you're not going to get your husband's pension.
No. What I was saying was this lady being scared is a callback to Deep Throat where the wives were like, we want information on our husbands. They're going crazy. They're missing whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. Yep.
But to your point right now, I would say he probably gives Mulder this information because anything he learns isn't detrimental to anything. Because really it's just a crashed UFO at this point. So he's just
tipping his hand a little bit to keep him intrigued or something?
Yeah. Like just give him something to go on. Keep him on the leash. I'm still helping you and I'm letting you see things so I can be trusted kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess my only issue with it would be, I mean, I know it's all about making an episode that's watchable, but they've gone to greater lengths to provide a hoax, or at least to provide the thing that they needed people to see. But in this case, it looks like this is an active thing that, if he even wants to give Mulder a show to convince him that he's legit or that there are things that he can manipulate Mulder with, there are easier ways to do it than actually tipping his hand to an actual fallen angel that Mulder can go and investigate and possibly mess up. Or he actually thinks that Henderson needs Mulder's help. I mean, that doesn't go over well. So I don't know. I guess I was a little bit mystified as to why they needed to bring in Deep Throat other than to get the episode moving. And
that might be it, honestly.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was this whole plan because he knew Max Fennig would be there and he wanted them to meet.
That's probably it.
And nerd up together.
I like it. Have a little nerd scene. So, yeah, they leave pretty quickly because we have our first action scene. The lights go out at the shelter and the target has entered the area. We have a little bit of a tense moment where the creature sneaks around. We have the soldiers searching for the creature. We have a guy with an infrared camera who's able to get some heat signatures. Definitely a throwback to Predator again, I would say. And they totally mess up. They do not prove their special status because they get wiped out by the creature. They were not prepared for what they had been trained to do.
Yeah. Did
Now,
not survive.
is it the caps or the flak jacket or the different weapons that failed them in this case?
I think it was their spirit. They just didn't believe enough.
Didn't bring their A game. They didn't do.
They
a
didn't
hut
want
beforehand.
it the right level.
I feel like they didn't make adequate use of infrared guy. Like he should have been up there with them because as soon as he gets up there, like he would have said, "Oh, bad guy's there. You should probably shoot that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The plot demands that these guys get wiped out. So these guys get wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at that point we have Mulder and Scully at the hospital where Deputy Wright's been treated. I guess where his body was brought, I guess.
Yeah, we learned that the military, they brought him in and then they brought him out quicker than the doctors could do anything for him. They didn't want any evidence, obviously, in the public.
And Mulder does this thing where he kind of gets the doctor to talk by prodding him, by goading him and saying, "Oh, they got to you too. Hey, what did they use on you? IRS? Withhold your license?"
Real quick, I want to point out this guy specifically, the doctor. He is a 100% veteran of this TV show. William McDonald. He has 5 episodes, 1 per season, up until they leave BC. So we got Fallen Angels, Blood, Too Shy, Unrui, and Chinga.
Supporting in all those, right? He's not a lead.
Yeah, he's not a lead by any chance, but very good actor, does a great job, and obviously they loved him enough to keep bringing him back.
Yeah, just put a wig on him, put a mustache on him. He's a new guy. Or nobody will notice. That's the other possibility. So the Dr. Oppenheim, reveals that the bodies brought in, or that the deputy's body was brought in heavily burned, and he confirms that the burns might have been caused by ionizing radiation. And this is only when he's prompted by Mulder. So he gets a little thinking and says, yeah, that could be it. Mulder's saying that he has a stack of X-Files with the same symptoms. And Scully reminds them that they've got to get back to Washington. And just as they're thinking that maybe they got to go, or Scully's thinking maybe we got to go, I don't think Mulder thinks he's got to go anywhere. Several soldiers are brought in with burns, and Henderson arrives, and he gives Mulder this look like, this is your fault. And I don't think that's earned.
No. At this point, no.
I think he just doesn't like Mulder, and, you're here and I can be angry at someone, legitimately, you're the guy I'm going to be angry at. But I don't necessarily buy that particular dislike.
I think he's playing that very stereotypical tough guy, man in charge, bad guy. He's got no time for anything but his mission. And this guy's going to get in my way, so I automatically hate him with a fiery passion.
Yeah. Yeah, he has no use to me, whereas Dr. Oppenheim has a use for me, Scully has a use for me, but this guy, get him out of my sight. I kind of dig that. So, they have a bit of words about the problem they're facing. Henderson has no time for it. And I like the doctor getting his backbone at this point, saying, in my OR, if you want my help, it's going to be the way I say. And so the only thing that Henderson can do at this point is throw Mulder at, because it's like, well, this is something I can do. Which leads me to the question, wouldn't Operation Falcon perhaps have brought its own medical staff? Like, why use the local Wisconsin hospital, which is probably equipped for treating cuts and bruises?
Was that a diss?
Yeah, sorry. You started it basically by implying there was no international airport, but...
No, I honestly don't. That would make sense. But
I guess
here we are.
The plot assumes, right? But it could also be they were just so confident. They thought, we're not going to have any casualties. What are we going to do if we have a stub toe? Oh, we'll go to the hospital. And then they had 4 major burn cases, so...
Wah, wah.
Mulder gets ejected, Scully stays to help with the wounded, and then Mulder goes off to visit Max, because maybe Max has some more information to share. But we get to see Max in the midst of an apparent epileptic seizure. And full props to the actor playing Max here. That's a really great depiction. I didn't grow up knowing anybody with epilepsy, but that's pretty scary to watch it.
It's not pleasant.
I'm sure it's not.
I think he did a good job, especially like with the small noises and kind of grunts he's doing. It's disturbing and felt accurate enough.
Yeah.
For me.
And it really does. I mean, I think it bonds Mulder at this point. He's like, this, when you have to take care of somebody, you really don't have much of an option but to be like, I'm here. I'm going to take care of you for this. And I can't imagine these.
It throws Max immediately into that underdog. This is the person Mulder's here for, He's always there to help someone who can't help themselves. And Max is fitting that bill in this scene.
Very much so. And I imagine Mulder also is reminded of himself in Max. So there's a lot of things here for him to like. But I love that Max thinks that it's impossible he could have a seizure. He's like, oh, it looked like you're having a seizure. What? That's impossible. And then I was waiting for the explanation like, I don't have epilepsy. But no, he says, I haven't had one for 7 years since I went on my medication. Oh, well then.
So it is possible.
So it is entirely possible that your meds are bad. I mean, choose your reason, but and then we get some backstory on the epilepsy, how it started in Arizona when he was 10, where he, quote, must have hit his head. I mean, maybe in hindsight, you can look back and go, oh, well, that's when the first abduction happened. But at that point,
you're supposed to draw these conclusions that they don't really give you the answers to, because let's be honest, it's the X-Files. But it leaves that up in the air for us to kind of go, I bet you something happened to him.
Well, especially when Max conks out and Mulder notes the mysterious mark behind Max's right ear. I mean, that is definitely the nail in the coffin to the theory that Max is just a pleasant young man. I mean, he's had some stuff done to him. So back in the hotel, he's doing some research on behind the ear scars, because he must have brought his behind the ear scar file with him.
He got lucky. He just pulled some files.
He's like, I might need this.
I might need these. Throw them in the suitcase.
So Scully arrives back after what must have been a pretty rough night at the hospital. A couple of them died. One of them, I think 2 of them were off to Johns Hopkins for huge burns. Does not sound pleasant. More on that later. But they have just about an hour to catch their plane. And of course, instead of catching the plane, Mulder has related what he's found out about Fennig's scar. And coming to the conclusion that Fennig is an abductee. Which, of course, prompts their standard Mulder-Scully conversation. She tells him what she found in the RV, the medication that he's on.
And she kind of mistakes what Mulder's saying here. She's like, one of them is an antipsychotic. So he's prone to these delusions or whatever. He's like, and Mulder's like, I don't think you understand. I think he was abducted.
Yeah, Max doesn't think he was
doesn't think he was abducted.
A nice twist on it there, yeah. Well, either way, she thinks that he's delusional and there's the meds to prove it. So it's enough to certainly make them think that there's a story to be told here. And it's a nice interplay between Mulder and Scully that there is possibly another explanation here. I mean, they don't have the virtue that we do of having seen fisheye alien wandering through the laser pointer fence. I mean, if they'd seen that, then they would know that Max is just fine. Speaking of aliens and such, we are back in the Space Center now, where they have detected another quote-unquote meteor entering the same sector.
Repeated calls for ID go unanswered, and it's not in the orbital or suborbital inventory.
2418. Isn't that where?
Same exact spot, sir. Though I am reading a much larger craft this time.
Meteor, Miss Cork.
A much larger meteor, sir.
Whitmar's tracking SSC. We have a bogey.
Hold on a second. We have a confirm. Whitmarsh Air Force Base is tracking.
Sector 35.
Where is it?
53,000 feet, 0 velocity.
Well, sir, the meteor seems to be hovering over a small town in eastern Wisconsin.
Tracking SSC. We have a
I like how the one officer has fully bought into the meteor.
Yeah.
Correct yourself, young lady.
Oh, it's my favorite interchange.
Yeah.
Everyone on the ground's about to have more aliens. Well, sir, the meteor seems to be hovering over a small town in eastern Wisconsin. So back at Max's RV, the fisheye angle tells us the alien has an interest in Max, and it's scooting over him to check him out. And we have a pretty terrifying scene, actually.
Yeah, it like sneaks his way into his trailer. It morphs or warps into his trailer from atop.
Yeah, it will.
And
not
then
open
it
doors.
like spies on him while he's sleeping, gets real close to his face.
Well, the ear and making the ear
starts,
bleed on command is it activates something, I think, is the takeaway. And it's nicely done that they show us and don't tell us, right?
Right.
And he opens his eyes. Ooh, cut to commercial. So, they're all right. Scully's convinced she'll go and check out the behind the ear scar if it means that it'll get Mulder on this plane. And they go to Max and they break into his RV by not, asking permission. But he's gone. And Scully sees a droplet of blood on the pillow, which says, Mulder, look at this.
Much less than the blood that was in the previous scene. But
well, admittedly, a lot of it is on his like the side of his face.
For sure, yeah.
It's there. So I get that it's not a lot. I mean, they borrowed that RV. They need to return it in pretty good shape. So they didn't want to spray blood around all over the place. But he's gone. And they overhear on Max's surveillance equipment, nice callback, that there is an unidentified trespass in the zone. And we got some nice back and forth between Mulder and Scully about whether they should stay and figure this out or whether they need to go back to Washington. And then Mulder makes his pretty convincing case that Max had to have been here in advance. This is not just random chance that he happened to be here to pick up this broadcast. So he's putting the pieces together that Max is integral to what's going on. And it seems to be enough to make Scully go, well, all right, I guess we can miss the plane.
I like that. I think, Mulder, he doesn't initially have his spider sense going outside of the fact that from the get-go, he knows there's a UFO here, right? So he is piecing this case together with Scully.
Yeah.
However begrudgingly she is. And he's making that connection, like Max is an abductee. So of all the places this UFO activity could be happening, what are the chances it's happening right here where Max is? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a kind of cool revelation.
It's good. As you say, it's more reasonable to get to this point now, as opposed to just Mulder using his superpower and going, oh, well, the aliens came to collect him. So, right. I mean, that's what we're doing here. Could have, but he didn't. And I like that it didn't come quite so easily this time. I think they've pulled that trick enough times that, maybe they're giving him a breather from it for this time. He's stressed,
Mm-hmm.
So we cut down to Max at a port. I would love to know whether there is a port in Townsend, Wisconsin.
I just chalked it up to, and I have not investigated if this town exists or not. I think it does, but I'm not positive. Very big shipyard, but my best guess is that it's on Lake Michigan.
Yeah, I'd go with that. So in the north end of Wisconsin, wherever.
That would be my guess. I have no idea. But I'm just making this episode make sense. Because there certainly is not an ocean next to Wisconsin, but
Is there not? There's one next to BC, but I guess they don't want to tell us.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, there you go. So
I'm like, there's no way there's an ocean next to Wisconsin. What am I missing? For a second there, I was like, oh my God, am I an idiot? But thankfully, I am not.
It's the Arctic Ocean next to Wisconsin.
Gotcha. I still don't know where a ship that big needs to be in Wisconsin.
Well, it flowed in and it's going to flow right back out because
there's a creek that runs from Wisconsin to the Atlantic Ocean.
It's a really deep creek.
Yeah. I think they were just hoping no one noticed. But here we are 30 years later.
They needed a location for this end fight, and it couldn't just be the warehouse district. It needed to be cool.
Right.
There's no reason it needs to be a port. There's no water action in this scene. So they got a discount.
It's just a cool set, honestly.
It's a cool set, no doubt. It's going to be weirdly used in this scene, I'll tell you right now, but... So, yes, Max is at the port, and he's intercepted by some soldiers. Max gives him a little, please don't do this, and the soldiers get fried off screen. I think there's even a sound effect. And Mulder and Scully arrive to find the Jeep and a few smoking corpses. And I would like you to just pack away in your mind what happens when this alien attacks a human being.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got it there in your head.
It's locked in.
It's locked in, filed away for later? Okay. Listeners, file it away for later. So we hear Max in the distance. You hear him making a noise of pain. He's screaming, and so they rush to find him inside one of these warehouses. They're coming for him. They're coming for him. And I like the double meaning of this because Mulder and Scully think the army is coming for him, but we all know it's the aliens coming for him. So this little plot diversion where Mulder tells Scully to keep them out is awful because
Send her out. I'm going to stay here.
You should keep their heads down. I mean, what is she going to do? Like put her shoe under the door?
Hold up her badge and be like, no, you're not coming in here.
I know that they have to separate them because, like, this is the snuffleupagus part where she cannot see the weird things.
Yeah.
But for those who don't know, on Sesame Street, the snuffleupagus was an animal that only Big Bird could see.
Jesus. I did not, of all the places this podcast could have gone tonight, I did not see that.
So she is diverted out of this particular scene. And again, I don't know why. Wouldn't she want to say, no, I'm the doctor. I'm going to fix him. He's delusional. I happen to have some Thorazine with me. That cures all the delusional stuff.
Just leave, Scully.
She's commanded away, and she goes off conveniently. And then we have the alien attack Mulder. And I would like you now to remind me what happens when an alien attacks a human being.
You get knocked out like you're the combatant in Street Fighter.
Flown away, yes. No, just the plot has told me that when a soldier gets hit by the alien.
Plot armor.
Well, he is wearing his leather jacket, so I got to give him
That's
that.
all you need.
Yeah, but he is not turned into a smoking corpse. He is not given any ionizing radiation. He is just thrown around a bit.
I'm going to insert some sizzling bacon sound effects every time there's a corpse.
So I feel like they could have done this another way, because this is done just to get Max into another place so that when Mulder can round the corner, there's Max who is hovering in a glow, which, to their credit, is, I think, well done. And apparently it was nothing more than a piano wire. It was not like CGI. Good.
I would agree with you in that it's inconsistent, to say the least, with the alien attack. There's no reason that alien wouldn't just smoke Mulder.
Well, unless
because he's smoking everyone else, unless he's detecting threat levels. But if that's the case, we have no context for that at all. So
why is the alien doing anything it's doing is the question, right? But and I don't need to know. The X-Files does that to me all the time, and I'm fine with that. But in this case, they could have done it another way. They did not have to have this action scene where Mulder is unharmed, essentially. And it just sort of doesn't make sense, quite obviously. But anyway, that's what happened. I don't have the ability to decode it. Operation Falcon arrives and secures the perimeter, and Scully is quickly apprehended. She failed at her one job of keeping him out. And then the soldiers look at this perfectly good door that she came out and decide they gotta explode it. And they just can't open it. They can't do a little breach and clear. They gotta attach blocks of C4 to it and blow it.
Can't they go in the door Scully came out?
No.
Apparently,
the Army, they don't work that way. They gotta blow shit up.
We gotta enter, god damn it.
We have a certain style to maintain. So Infrared Guy reports there are 3 forms inside. And that's nice because we know the alien's in there now. But they're like, oh, there's like a port worker in here or something. That's not good. Although maybe they do know. Maybe that's his point, is that they know that the bad guy's in there. So this is where Mulder is zapped. And after Max is freshly abducted, the Army decides that now is the time to blow up the door after everything has been done. And they storm in, only to find it's just Mulder now. And Mulder says, like, he really gives Colonel Henderson a dressing down of like, they beat us, Colonel. And I feel like it's weird. Like, why are you suddenly on the same team? You know, you weren't working together.
I don't think he was saying that so much as, I don't know how to explain that. It wasn't him saying they're on the same team. It was more like we were all looking for him and the aliens won. He was like poking the bear. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Arrest him. That's what he's going to do. And it's a nice little, the one thing I can do is arrest you, apparently. Yeah, I didn't really buy that.
It's throwaway.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Henderson's objective was to kill the alien or retrieve it, you know, to make it all go away. He didn't really care about Max Fennig.
No.
That's made pretty abundantly clear when he just says, all right, well, arrest this guy. At least I can do that.
Mission complete.
At least one good thing came out of this.
Out of all this, he gets to arrest one man.
I got some perfectly good cells I get to use again. They don't got to be taken apart for 3 days. We got them rented for the week. Back in Washington, Scully is participating in the hearing against Mulder at a very long desk, with McGrath being the one in charge, and she's answering some very perfunctory questions.
Agent Scully, to the best of your knowledge, was Agent Mulder ever assigned to investigate matters related to the evacuation of Townsend, Wisconsin?
No, sir.
At any time, were you aware of his submitting a Form 302 requesting said assignment or travel expenses?
No, sir.
While in Wisconsin, did Agent Mulder drive a blue Ford Taurus registered to the state car rental agency?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Agent Scully.
Sir, request permission to make a statement.
Request denied.
Sir, it's unfair to judge Mulder by the same criteria.
You're dismissed, Agent Scully.
But, sir,
That will be all.
And Scully tries to get a few good words in. They're not having any of it. McGrath has got his dagger sharpened.
Unless they're just showing us this part of the meeting, unless this is not the whole meeting, the questions they're asking is like, yeah, and that's what you're going to fire him over? Or, I mean, I know we know the answer, but it just feels like they're throwing these questions at Scully. They're obvious. No, he didn't follow protocol to get on this case, but you're not asking her legitimate questions that would have, say, interfered with a military operation or endangered the lives of the local people or something, which, you know, Henderson claims he did.
To that point, actually, I didn't even think about it. Like, why are they asking Scully these questions? She's a medical doctor and she's his partner, but she's not in HR. She's not in the travel section.
Right.
Like, they would be the ones to be like, no, we never did receive Form 28B, you know, for the car rental. But I do like the idea that this is, it's like getting Capone for tax evasion, right? This is the way they're going to get him out of the FBI because he has ruffled too many feathers. He is not playing the game the way they want it played and they want him out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily buy it, though, because like it gives Mulder a platform to say some really pithy things, and I dig it for that. But
yeah,
by and large, there's no tension here because in the next breath, it's all the wand is waved by Deep Throat, and he's cleared of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mulder doesn't take it seriously. He doesn't really, you know, it's been hovering in the background as why they have to go, but there have been no stakes here. The stakes are the alien and how it's killing soldiers and how Max is going to be taken away. But this side plot, you know, you could have ended the episode without it, and I wouldn't have missed it.
Right. It does undo itself within 2 minutes with Deep Throat. So, yeah, I can see why it's not necessary. If anything, it's just adding to Mulder's distaste for the way the government's handling things, and the plot is thickening for Mulder, and seeing what depths they go to with every occurrence is just like solidifying his distaste for him. That's really all this does.
Yeah, it shows him at odds with the institution. So, and I'm fine with it, but we have Mulder going in now to give his 2 cents worth, and I like that Scully is reading the paper that the toxic cleanup was a success.
Yeah.
Nice little callback to our cover story. Mulder does not play ball in the hearing. They are hanging him out to dry because of his inability to follow FBI protocol, and he hits them the truth, and they hit back with bureaucracy.
McGrath is on the verge of a massive coronary in this scene.
It's exactly what I have here. It's well done. That will be all, Mr. Mulder. Yeah, it's well done. Acted on his part.
Yeah.
But I do like his parting shots there, where he's basically saying, you know, what can I say? How can I disprove lives that are stamped with an official seal?
It's a good line.
And his business with, you can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered. It does. I like that it does have an effect on McGrath. It's like, you see that he is complicit in what's going on, and he's somehow got a personal stake in it. But then he's out, and we have our denouement with an angry McGrath coming out to meet with Deep Throat, who has overridden the committee's decision.
Check yourself, sir.
Yeah.
Don't get that tone with me, Deep Throat.
Well, but I like that it's interesting. So what is Deep Throat's role within the FBI? And I guess within the government generally, because apparently he has enough sway that can be like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep him there. He must have a role within the FBI, or else he'd be like, and who are you again, sir, that you can override this decision?
Well, and that calls into question everything. Like,
yeah,
cigarette smoking man, he's obviously got something to do with the FBI. The shadow government is controlling some elements of every official government institution that we know.
Mm-hmm.
So it does beg the question, what the hell role do these people play? But at the same time, it's like, we don't even need to know because it's just fun.
Yeah. And it does.
It's interesting to think there are these people just pulling the strings and there's like 5 of them.
Well, and I do like the fact that it in a sense doesn't matter. You know,
no, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter whether he works for this organization or not. He's just got all the clearance he needs. And if he needs clearance at another organization, he will just get somebody to give it to him, you know, because they have that power.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's really, as lame as it is to put it this way, it's just badass to me to think he can just snap his fingers and make this all go away.
Mm-hmm.
Officially.
Yep.
Imagine all the paperwork that guy just did, McGrath and his team, to get Mulder up on these charges and whatever. And he's like, nah. Look, burger? You want to get a burger?
I missed my son's soccer game to fill out all that paperwork.
He scored a goal, and I missed it.
He hates me now. At least let me fire this Mulder character. But I do like the logic that Deep Throat's saying, you know, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. And that is where our episode ends.
Now, I did want to ask that. Do you think that is Deep Throat kind of playing to McGrath or playing to us? Because is Mulder an enemy? Obviously, he's an enemy to McGrath. But is Deep Throat identifying himself as an enemy of Mulder also in this scene?
I don't think they knew. Like, we're episode 10. So like, they're just starting to get on a roll with this show. I think that they're still figuring out who Deep Throat is. There's, you know, they're moving their chess pieces around.
To your point right now, they're very much figuring out what things mean in this show because the aliens are behaving in ways that we've never and will never see them act like this again. Yeah. I think I was trying to look at it through the 1993 lens.
Oh, they're casting him as a villain, for sure. That whole keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, that is not something that friends say.
Right.
So, shall we go into our final thoughts?
Sure. It's a fun episode. It's a good episode. Like I said at the beginning, I think it's bringing that mythology back into the focus of the show. You know, we had quite a few episodes that were not very mythology focused at all. It's bringing back the overarching storyline. And even though this doesn't have a lot to do with anything, it just kind of gets Mulder back to a place that we started the show with. And it's government conspiracy, covering up aliens. What is their role on our planet? So it's bringing that back, and it's going to lead into some really cool episodes coming up. So this is a good episode.
Yeah, I have it on here as well for my notes. I thought it was very good. For the time, I think there were some good action scenes. Well, I'm let down by the FX.
I'm going to roll that one back.
Yeah, I guess I started by saying good action scenes. I did not like a lot of the effects they used for the action scenes. I think they were probably hamstrung by what they had available at the time. Somebody had a good idea for how they could do it, and then the execution just didn't pan out, and they probably didn't have the time to do it another way. So that's what I'm going to suggest, because they have done better work in even episodes leading up to this. So alien ionizing radiation attacks, they get an F for, but a lot of other stuff in this episode, they do very well. I actually don't mind the alien fisheye perspective and the fact that the aliens' motivations are completely inscrutable. Like, we have no idea why they're here, or, you know, what the Colonel has to do with it. He just wants to kill it, right? It's simple in that way, and I appreciate the simplicity. But because it's the X-Files, we're never going to get to have all the puzzle pieces. And I think at this point, Chris Carter didn't have all the puzzle pieces. So, fine. It does fit pretty well into the mythology arc. They're trying out a few things to see if they fit. And I think they're going to take a few little nuggets from what we have in this episode, and they're going to use them in future episodes. You're right. We're never going to see Fisheye again. God rest him. But maybe we don't need to. Which leads me to the question I have. What did Mulder and Scully actually do in this episode?
They learned.
They grew as people.
Grew as people and partners. That's our show today, folks.
Tune in next time.
We can ask that question in so many episodes, right? So,
yeah. They are observers, largely. It does happen a lot in episodes. They are there for the ride, like the viewer in a lot of times. And that, I'm sure in life that happens too. And you're there picking up the pieces. I like to think that maybe they helped Deputy Wright's family get his body back. Maybe they were able to do some of that. But largely they're just there to watch what happens. And I think I like those episodes a little less compared to when they are actually able to accomplish something. Because so much of the show is about revealing something to you, and then it all gets taken away, and then you're back to square one or even before. And there's a disappointment in that.
Right.
Well, there we go, folks. Thanks for listening to our review of Fallen Angel.
Bye.
Listen, I think there's got to be a better send out. Even you do better.
Shit. We're leaving this in here too. No.
Well, there you had it. That was our review of Fallen Angel. Thanks for listening to us natter on about this for over an hour. I'm sure that we enjoyed it as much as you did, and we look forward to having you along with us on the next one.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.